Hey everybody, Cornfed Lady here, and today I'm planting the veggie garden. But before we get the seeds in the ground, I want to cover up the footpaths with some woven cloth material to prevent weeds. So in our greenhouse over here, which has actually been converted into a garden shed at the time, because that's what happens on farms, you repurpose things as needed. So we were using this as a greenhouse. Now it's just being used to gather materials for gardening. So you see we've got some garden stakes and flags. I do need to get the black woven cloth to put over the garden like I was talking about to prevent weeds. Now this material will allow water to seep through because it's woven, but it will keep the weeds from coming up through it. So we're going to put some of that down in the footpaths. And I'm going to tack it down with some of these ground staples just to hold it in place in the wind. So let's go ahead and get that out. All right, that's one down, 15 more to go. Now when you're laying this cloth down, you want to make sure to overlap between your rows so that the weeds can't come up through the crack in between. Now I am going to be planting where these stakes are marking out. I'm going to be sowing in my seeds right here, so I am going to leave about an inch of exposed ground, just enough room for me to slip the seeds into. Okay, I think you get the idea after one or two of these rows. Like I said, I've got about a dozen or so more to go to get all the way down the end of this garden here. So let's go ahead and skip ahead to where all the ground cloth is already down, and I'm getting ready to plant the seeds. Movie magic. Okay, about an hour or so later, I've got almost all of it covered except for the last few rows at the end because I ran out of ground staples. So I'm going to go ahead and take a lunch break and then I'll come back and start planting seeds. Okay, so just off the end of where I've got it covered with that cloth is this bed on the side. And down on the end there, I've already put in some garlic. I did that last fall. And it looks like it's still growing in there. It's coming back. It kind of died back over the winter. So you can see it's already coming back. We've got this garlic coming in. Needs a little weeding in there. But it looks like it's doing well. I see quite a few of them coming back up already. So the garlic's doing well. I'm going to go ahead and put the onions in this middle section here. And then on this end, I'm actually going to try growing some peanuts this year, something new. So let's get the onions in the bed next to the garlic. So I've got two different types of onions here. This one is called a Stuttgarter and this one is called Comrade. And the Comrade are red onions and the other ones are yellow or almost a white onion. And on the back here has planting instructions. Select an area with full sun and good drainage, check. Plant 2 inches deep, 4 inches apart. Okay. This one says exactly the same thing. Now this is just an old potato bed from last year, so it should still have pretty loose soil from growing the potatoes in there. So let's see, 2 inches deep, 4 inches apart. We'll put the first one right here. Oh yeah, it's still really nice and soft. And this is about a 4-inch blade. So that's the next one. Another 4 inches. Here's the next one. Looks like we can get about 3 across. Give it a nice little hole in there so it can spread out its roots nice and easily. And this old straw in here is not going to hurt anything. It's actually going to help hold in the moisture when it rains. It'll work as a weed preventative, like a mulch. Alright, I'm going to start off with the yellow ones on this end, and then about halfway through we'll switch over to the red ones. And there are some old potato, like rotten potato pieces in here, and if they grow, I'm okay with that too. But we do have another potato bed down on the other end of the garden. Drop one in each hole, cover them up. And it is supposed to rain, there is a chance of rain anyway, over the next 4 or 5 days on our forecast. So these should get watered in by nature quite well, hopefully. So I don't have to be dragging the hose back and forth doing that. My dad always said, work smarter, not harder. So let Mother Nature do her part. She brings the sun and the rain, and all you gotta do is put the seeds where you want them to grow. Alright, I'm gonna go 4 inches out from that row to the next row, and then do 3 more. I'm seeing a lot of earthworms and grubs and stuff in here too, so that's good. It means the soil is alive and it's got everything it needs to be able to grow these onions. There's a little teeny tiny baby earthworm. There's a bunch of them like that in here. Here's another one. That one's not quite a baby anymore. You see, they're just waking up. Oh, look at this one. It's already starting to sprout. One, two, three, 4, 5. Looks like I'm going to get about 5 rows of each variety. So I'll get 2 more rows of these in, and then I'm going to switch over to the reds. Okay, well that does it for the onions. I ended up getting 5 rows, or 4 rows of the yellow and 5 rows of the red. And next I'm gonna do this little area with peanuts. Okay, the peanuts are gonna be the same spacing, 4 to 6 inches apart. So I'm gonna go ahead and get some holes dug for those and drop them in. You got worms, night crawlers, earthworms. Oh, can't get it. You got grubs. It's another kind of worm. And we have what I've always called roly-polies, potato bugs. These are the 3 that I keep seeing over and over. All right, let's go ahead and get some of these peanuts in these holes. It says 2 per hole, so I'm just going to leave it in the shell. There's usually 2 in each shell. So I'm just going to drop 1 shell in each hole, and we'll see how many peanuts we get from 3 by 4, 12 peanuts. Well, 12 peanut shells. I guess there's 2 in each shell, so a dozen, 2 dozen peanuts, however you want to look at it. We'll see how many we get when we go to harvest. Okay, so we've got this entire bed done now. There was already garlic in the end. We put 2 kinds of onions in the middle and some peanuts down here on this end. I'm gonna go ahead and start planting rows, working my way up the garden here. And hopefully by the time those ground staples come in, I'll be able to finish clothing that off and plant the rest of it, because this is more late season stuff anyway on the end here. This is gonna be like peppers, tomatoes, watermelons, things like that. But I do need to get some of these other things in here because they're like salad greens and carrots and stuff that like the cold too. And of course we do have a bed of potatoes already growing in here. They're not sprouting yet, but they're in there. They're hiding under the straw and hay. And I'm gonna start right here with the carrots. Okay, so again, we've got this little 1-inch strip down the middle here. It's already been tilled. My husband tilled this whole entire garden a few weeks ago, and so it's ready to receive the seeds. I'm just going to sprinkle them in there and kind of rub them around, and that's going to be enough for them to settle into place until the water hits them. Hopefully from the rain, but if not, from the garden hose. I like to sow these in pretty thick, so sprinkle them all around in that crack like that. And then I'll come back and disturb the soil to help them settle into that place. And when these come in, it'll look like a line of, like a chia pet. And that's it for the carrots, other than you have to make sure they get watered in real well. I'd say for like the first week or two even, you want to make sure they stay wet the whole time. So like I said, we've got 4 or 5 days of rain coming. Hopefully that'll get them started, and then I can kind of water as needed in between the rains. Okay, next up on the list is lettuce, and I'm going to plant it the same way that I just planted the carrots. I'm going to sprinkle it in, disturb the soil, and hope for the rain. And today I'm planting my 2 favorite kinds of lettuce, iceberg and ruby red. I'm going to shoot for half a ruby red and half iceberg. So I'm going to step off to about the middle and set this one down so I know when to switch over. Now, I'm not going to sow these as thick as I did the carrots. I'm just going to space them a little more evenly apart because I don't have very many. That's all I have for the whole half row. So I'm going to space these further apart than I did the carrots. Okay, the third row is going to be spinach and cabbage. I forgot about the cabbage. I wanted to grow some of this Chinese cabbage. It's the red kind of purpley stuff that they cut up like little squigglies in your salad. I'm going to try to grow some of that this year, and the giant noble variety of spinach. The spinach only needs to be about 1/8 of an inch down, so I just kind of set it on the soil and poke it in and cover it a little bit. And then we'll space them 1 inch or 2 apart. The spinach seeds, just kind of little round looking seeds like that. And I put 2 at a time just in case one doesn't take, the other one might. Shove them down a little bit, push a little soil on top. Next 2 a few inches over, push them down a little bit, some soil on top. Okay, 4th row is kale, and I like the blue curled Scotch variety. The animals also really love it. It's a good treat for chickens, turkeys, bunnies, and pigs. So we like growing quite a bit of kale. It says to space it about 6 inches apart and to plant them about 1/4 inch deep. So I'm just going to poke them down with my finger, pinch it over the top just like I did with the last couple rows, and hope the rain waters them in. Okay, rows number 5, 6, and 7 are all going to be different varieties of beans. The first one I'm going to plant is a green bean called Provider. I grew these last year and they produced really well, so I'm definitely going to grow these again this year. Another one that I grew last year and I'm going to grow again this year is the yellow wax beans. These are just kind of fun to add a little color into your dish. If you have a bunch of green beans, you can have some yellow ones in with them. They all cook up the same. And then in the last bean row, I'm trying this new one just because it looks really cool. It's called Dragon's Tongue, and these are all bush beans, so they won't need trellised. They're just going to grow in a little shrub on the ground. But these ones are kind of like purplish and white. I just thought they looked cool. Maybe they'd add some fun colors to a dish. Now for these beans, I'm going to be planting them about 1/2 inch to 1 inch deep, and they're going to be about 1 foot apart from each other. So I'm just going to go ahead and shove those in the ground, and then I'll move on to the next couple of rows. Okay, I got all 3 varieties of beans in the ground, and now I'm on to my 8th and last row of the day, which is sugar snap peas. I saved these a couple of years ago off some snap peas I grew. Some of them look questionable, but some of them look viable. So I'm going to try planting these, and that's going to just about wrap it up for the day. Now I'm going to go ahead and put these in the ground off camera because it's, you know, you can only watch somebody plant so many seeds before you get bored. But once I get these snap peas in the ground, the only thing I'll have left is the back half of this garden. And once I get those ground staples in the mail, I'll be able to finish putting down this fabric cloth to prevent weeds, and I'll be able to do that in the back half of the garden as well. And all I have left back there is tomatoes, peppers, and watermelon, and they don't mind the summer heat at all. They actually prefer it. I do still have a corn patch that I need to plant back there too. Same thing though with the corn. We have such a long growing year here in central Illinois, so we can plant things well into May and still have enough time to grow and harvest before the fall. But I wanted to go ahead and get this garden started, at least the greens, the salad greens and stuff like that, that still likes the cold. And I wanted to get this black cloth down before all the rain comes and get those seeds in the ground so they can start germinating. Well, that's going to do it for today's video. If you've been doing some gardening where you live, please leave a comment below. I'm really interested to see what you're growing this year too. Y'all have a good one. Bye. In case you're wondering, here's the noise you've been hearing the whole time in the background. Hi, Tom. You were being pretty loud during the video. Yeah, just like that.